25 foot is what I define it as, and that's, I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but that is something that I see 25 foot, I tell you to stay beyond it. You don't have to define that, or you don't have to understand that. You just need to listen to the direction of the officer.
That was Indiana State Police Sergeant Brian Walker back when Indiana's buffer zone law went into effect. It's a contentious piece of legislation that, while law enforcement says it's there for safety reasons, others say it violates First Amendment rights and could allow things like excessive force to go unseen. Now, this is something 21 Alive's John Wagner has been keeping an eye on for some time. The buffer zone law is now facing some legal challenges. John talked to Whitney Downard at the Indiana Capital Chronicle about the issue.
Whitney Downard with Indiana Capital Chronicle joining us once again at 7, and tonight we're talking about the buffer zone law. And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, this is a law that's fairly recent, and it basically says that when an officer conducting official business tells you to give them 25 feet, you have to do so. We've been watching this since its inception, since it was proposed, and it's a little controversial. We knew there might be a challenge, and there has been. Whitney, what can you tell us about it?
There was one challenge out of South Bend that came a little earlier, and this is the second one that is led by a group of media entities, including broadcast journalists and some print entities, who are saying that this is getting in the way of our First Amendment right, freedom of press, and that this is really limiting what video we can take when we are at crime scenes and rallies and protests, and limiting not just video, but also audio, and the interactions that the public has with the police officers in such situations are important and need to be documented. And if we are told to keep 25 feet back, then we are not going to be able to do our job of holding people accountable for their actions on both sides.
When we've talked to law enforcement in the past about this, they've told us that there's nothing that's going on that you can't see from 25 feet, that you can't videotape, or that you're missing at that distance. Is that being argued in this case, or sort of what's the back and forth?
Yeah, that's the exact same thing that the three defendants in this case, the Attorney General and two public safety offices here in Marion County, that's the exact thing that they're saying, is that from 25 feet away, you can see and do and interact with most of the things that are happening. And I don't necessarily think that it's 100% true. That from 25 feet away, things don't always look the same. And, as somebody with hearing loss, I'm not going to be able to hear the same thing from 25 feet away. So I think that there are some kind of concerns about how we maintain that barrier between police conduct and actually making that there is public accountability, public viewing. So I'm really curious to see how this case moves forward. The judge declined to weigh in on an earlier filing last month on an injunction, which would have blocked the law temporarily. And we'll have to see what the judge thinks about the injunction and the dismissal, which is what was filed last week.
So whether this is dismissed or not, what do we think the future of this law is?
So that will actually kind of depend on a couple of things. The two things are at issue with this particular case. One, none of the plaintiffs have said that this to them. None of them have said that they have tried to film something and been denied at this point. And the defendants actually said that it is also a case-by-case basis, that certain districts may be much more flexible about this and allow press and the public closer. But the other problem is that there is already a case working its way through the Northern District of Indiana, which includes South Bend, but not Marion County. And so that case was filed first and could potentially take the lead on this. And that plaintiff actually did allege harm when they were told to back away by a South Bend police officer. So I think that those are the two things that kind of jeopardize the case here.
Yeah, and we will just have to wait and see, it seems like. Whitney Downard with the Indiana Capital Chronicle, always appreciate your input. Thanks for being with us tonight at 7.